Good morning, everybody. I'm just trying to get my camera set up here. It's not really not wanting to go the right direction. There, that's probably all right. Good morning. I'm just gonna do a live stream today, just talking about some of the things that people have asked me on my channel here. So, until then, I think we'll wait a few minutes to kind of make sure everybody's gotten on here. And I know it's kind of surprised when I go live because I don't ever actually tell you when I'm going to go live. I just happen to jump on here. From Poland, huh? What time is it in Poland? But I've got coffee, so I can wait. You know, one thing you got to have around here is enough coffee. This is a little crooked. There we go. Yeah, go ahead and ask questions, whatever you want. If you want to ask some questions, I would be happy to answer some questions, and then I'm going to go through a few questions on from the YouTube comments. But until then, go ahead and ask away if you have any questions about whatever suits your fancy. From Holland. All right, so my relatives. Well, we're Dutch. My family is Dutch. So I don't know how long this will be. Probably about an hour or maybe a little over. I'm just, like I said, I appreciate that. Somebody was just thanking me for the content that I make. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's okay to wear cowboy hats in the UK because I've never been to the UK. So, any experience with what? Oh shoot! Hold on. Somebody has a mare that's producing milk, but she's not been bred. Well, no, I have no experience with that whatsoever. Never heard of it. That's an interesting one. So, yes, we train our own horses. The horses that I ride are just ones that we've actually raised ourselves. Not all of them, but the ones that I ride for personal, for personal use. You guys have seen Calabar. That's one that my dad broke. And then, so what I mean by that is my dad got him started, and he started him for, he rode him for a couple years, but my dad's been really injured. He, had a head injury from a horse accident and everything. So he wasn't able to keep him going. And really what it takes to get a horse really, really comfortable with every situation is basically you have to put him in every situation. You have to ride him for years, day in, not every day maybe, but, very often. And that's something he couldn't do. So I took that horse over from him, and because he got injured again this year. Sorry, I'm trying to get my camera farther away from me. But and then I take the horses. I like to take them when they had a little bit of riding on them, not when they're completely, totally green, meaning not from day one. That's a little scary. When you're riding horses, when you're breaking colts don't know what they're going to do at any point in time. They don't know what they're going to do if they don't have a clue what they're going to do at all. Like if anything spooks them, they don't know what they're going to do. So if they don't know what they're going to do, I don't know what they're going to do. And it's pretty nerve-wracking to ride, to start colts when you're riding them, when they first are learning everything. Once you get 30 or 60 to 90 days on them and they've been exposed to a little bit, they're kind of used to the saddle, things like that. They can, it becomes a lot more comfortable, at least for me. And then I can take them from there and kind of teach them how to handle and teach them how to act right and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Yeah, riding horses is a contact sport. That somebody said that is. I'll tell you what. Um, Especially breaking horses while you're trying to get some work done. That is the most difficult thing because the where horses get most of their experience is actually doing what it is that you want them to do. But if you're doing it on a horse that isn't experienced, that means that you're putting yourself in a dangerous situation all the time. So you never know what they're going to do or how it's going to go, and it can get ugly. Just like yesterday. Yesterday, nothing went right. Just so you know, I'm making a video for yesterday. I felt like such a farmer because not a cowboy, because nothing went right yesterday. I wrapped a lariat around my arm right here, and it was tied to a calf going that way, and Calabar was not acting well yesterday at all, and he was going this way. And luckily, the calf was small enough to where I actually stayed on the horse, because if the calf would have been any bigger, I'd have been in the cactus, which I'd be still picking cactus out of myself today if that hadn't have gone well. Yes. So, and that's so true. A lot of times, especially in videos on YouTube or something, ranching stuff, you tend to see cowboys riding in pairs, and that's because a lot of times there's things that you have to do that almost require two people, and very often I don't have two people. It's just me. So that makes it a little bit more difficult because if I'm doing something by myself on a horse that's not as experienced, then you can't really. It's hard to get the job done and teach the horse anything. So people say, "Why didn't you take time to teach that horse something?" Or you should train him better. It's really hard to train him if you're actually trying to get some work done. So a lot of times you're under a time crunch too. Like you got to get this done today so you can get on to the next thing. And so you don't have time to sit there and train your horse for an hour. And 4-H goats. Yeah. Yeah, it makes for a long day and a lot more work. Um, like I said, just like yesterday. Yesterday was not the best day. The wind was blowing, and if you guys know, the wind blows a lot. The wind blows a lot in Montana and Wyoming and Texas and places like that. And there is something that happens to a horse when the wind is blowing. They completely change their demeanor. They're more wild, they're spookier, they tend to do things. If they're going to do something stupid, they're going to do it then when the wind's blowing. And it also messes with your head a little bit. The wind blowing all the time, it's almost like you feel like you're just a little off balance. And that's what happened yesterday. We have a cow that we're going to have to get rid of because she tried to kill us when we roped her calf. My dad and I. And so the wind has been crazy. Yeah. Everything just acts totally nuts. All the animals act totally weird in the wind. I don't understand it. We did not get snow. So here's the thing. We got snow all around us in the mountains. Montana is very strange because it has these pockets like where I live, which is a very low valley. And that low valley is like 3,500 feet elevation. And so in 3,500 feet, you just don't get the snow down here. We get cold and wind. We get more wind typically because of where we're at, but less snow. So the mountains get snow and it comes down the sides of the mountains all around us in the state. Lots of places got lots of snow actually, and we didn't. Yeah, the Bridgers get a lot of snow. They get way more snow than us, which works. Hey, I'm fine with it. I'm okay with going somewhere to get in the snow if I want, but coming down here, the problem is we get drifts. So we end up with a whole bunch of drifts, which is makes it a little difficult. Do you get close to your horses? Absolutely. You know, you get the thing about horses is you get to know them. So a horse one on one, let's take Calabar for example. Calabar is the black horse that I've been riding for this summer. And, you know, a couple times I've ridden that paint mare of my son's, but you get to know what a horse is doing, how far you can push them, what he's going to do when you get in a certain situation. So you learn this trust relationship. And he knows what I'm going to do, what I'm going to allow him to do, and what I'm not going to allow him to do. And then also, you know, I know what he's going to do. So that creates a situation where I can actually do way more than I could on a horse that I don't trust or don't know all the way. So yes, you create a relationship where that's the horse you want to go to. You want to grab that horse for everything. And it's not always because that horse is like the best. It's because you know exactly what you're getting. So, you know, otherwise, if you're riding horses all the time, in my experience, my dad has a horse leasing business, and getting new horses or different horses all the time, and that is really nerve wracking because even though they're broke horses, and you're not always riding like young horses, but you're always riding different horses, so you never know what to expect, and that's actually way more nerve wracking to me than riding a horse like Calabar, who his problem is not bucking, which is nice, but his problem is being spooky. He's not sure of himself in tight situations, and so he spooks a lot. And when you're riding a spooky horse, you have to ride close to your saddle a lot, meaning you have to be really prepared to, you know, have that horse move out from under you really fast at any point in time. But because I know what he's going to do, I really like riding. I really like riding him too. He's actually way bigger than he looks on camera. When you're holding the camera up here, everything that low down below you is going to look smaller. So I brought my sister-in-law out to help me with something the other day, and she was like, "Wow, he's really big. He's way bigger than he looks on camera." And I was like, "Oh, really? I didn't know." So I kind of paid attention, and yeah, he's a really big horse, and I like big horses. I'm kind of a bigger guy, um, so I don't know. I just like to ride a bigger horse, as long as they're not too tall, so I don't have to, you know, stretch my leg so far to get up there. So somebody said coffee. I drink a lot of coffee when I'm editing videos. If I'm sitting at the computer all day and I'm talking to people, I'm doing, you know, business deals, I'm uh, on the phone editing videos, editing photographs, things like that, then I go through the coffee. I go through about a pot of coffee in a day. I probably don't drink the whole pot, but probably 3/4 of a pot. So probably the equivalent of what, you know, on the little pot thing would be about 8 cups of coffee, something like that. And I try to quit drinking coffee around 3:30 or 4, otherwise I don't sleep well. But right now, I like coffee, especially when it's cold outside. It's a lot easier to drink when it's cold outside. Okay, I'm going to make sure I put a message on Telegram to my group. I have a private group on Telegram, and the link is in my description everywhere. And I put it in the description of every video, and you can join that. And then I do a little bit of behind the scenes thing, but I'm going to make sure that they know that I'm live on YouTube. Where is that? Okay. I don't really know how well that works, but I'm trying. How cold is it at the minute in Montana? Actually, we're having a nice warm day. So it's like 50 something today, which is really nice because but it's supposed to get cold and snow tomorrow. So 104 people on live and only 20. Oh, well, yeah, it's live doing live streams is very odd because you have to hit it at a time. Either you really should actually put out a post and say, "Hey, I'm going live at this time," and then do a live stream because otherwise people don't ever know you're there. So, so yes, I watched Yellowstone. Yellowstone is an interesting topic because I've watched Yellowstone and it's more of a Yellowstone. It's got a huge number of fans, and I think it's doing a lot for bringing awareness back to the cowboy lifestyle. We've lost a lot of that. I mean, it used to be a huge interest. You'd put out westerns all the time, and and westerns used to be really big. I mean, John Wayne made them big. I don't know if they're not real. I mean, they didn't try to get accurate to anything. But when Yellowstone came out, they created like a mafia show in a cowboy setting. So I people think, well, you shouldn't have the mafia part, and that I think they're really bloody and way too nudity and all that stuff. Absolutely, but it did it does show part of the ranching dilemma in Montana and the West, as far as that's concerned, is that all of these old time ranchers, these ranchers that were have inherited ranches over the from 1900 on, where their families bought them in the Great Depression and things like that, are now having to all deal with what John Dutton is dealing with. They're all dealing with the fact that they have to now find a way to make more money on their ranch, or somebody's going to buy it out from under them, or they're going to lose it. And you can sell ranches if you inherited a big ranch, 10,000 acres or 4,000 acres. Yeah, you're talking millions of dollars. So somebody buys your ranch, you have millions of dollars. You can either be extremely wealthy or you can ranch. But the problem is once you sell your ranch, it's gone forever. And people don't like to sell a ranch and then go buy another one. In Yellowstone, his daughter, John Dutton's daughter, talks to him about, well, why don't you just sell out and go buy a ranch in Oklahoma where nobody cares, right? And the thing is that the family ties to the land are very real, just like they portray in Yellowstone. So a lot of this stuff, the concepts of what they're portraying is very true. Let's see. Do you think I so should you become a rancher? How to become a rancher? Like, here's the interesting part. Yellowstone plays into this too because it shows that most of the big time ranchers came from people who inherited ranches from their ancestors. So they aren't actually the ones who bought the ranch. It's been in their family for two, three, four generations, and sometimes even the ranchers get offended, like, well, why is everybody says they're jealous of me and I shouldn't have this much land. I don't think that's accurate. I think ranchers should be aware that they are lucky in that regard. You inherited something that people like you guys, a lot of people like you guys, don't have the opportunity to do. You're not going to go buy a ranch and have it paid off this year, right? You're not going to grow up, get out of high school and have the opportunity to take over a ranch with no debt. That's not going to be your thing. If you make it in ranching, if you start ranching today, one thing I would do is not go to Montana, even though I love Montana. I think there's lots of other places you can make way more money at ranching than Montana, because Montana has too much winter, not enough grass. It's so dry and so long of winter that you have to feed too much hay, which costs you too much money. and then you have to have so many acres per cow. It just doesn't pay as well. So that's one thing. But also, if you're a rancher who has a lot of land, you also have to realize and admit, yeah, yeah, I know I'm lucky that I have the ability to have what I have, not because of what they did, but because what their ancestors did. So, well, I tell you what, so somebody said he doesn't use a saddle, rides bareback. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing with me. Uh, I ride with this saddle all the time. I used to ride bareback when I was a teenager, and it's interesting, but I am not that good of a rider to stay on a a, a horse without a saddle very well. It just doesn't work for me very well. So I can barely do it with a saddle. I mean, I'm not the best rider. Some people have the reflexes that it takes to be an amazing rider, regardless of what the horse is doing and everything. I'm just not one of those. I know some people like that. Yes, and somebody mentioned 1883. So 1883 was a fantastic show. I watched that one. I thought that was it portrayed the hard work, the the entrepreneurial spirit that is still alive today in the West. Because when so 1883 is actually Sam Elliott and I'm horrible. It's Faith Hill. I'm horrible with actors' names, but I can remember a few of them. But anyway, Sam Elliott and Faith Hill. Who's the other guy? Tim McGraw, and they portray John Dutton coming out to Montana and the horrible, you know, atrocities and real life stuff that they had to deal with to get out here, and that just shows the American dream at work. But then there was a place to go to do that. The West was open at that point, and it's not anymore. Everything has been settled. So you have to either find a way to buy it and make money at it, or it's way more difficult. So when people came over here, my wife's family, they actually bought all of their land during the Great Depression because he had money when everybody didn't have money, and so he just bought land for almost nothing. So there's several ways that they do that, they've done that. But all of those ranches now are in the hands of people who did not actually work to buy that property. So I would say to those people, be grateful for what you have. I mean, don't be offended when people are jealous of you. Say, yeah, man, I didn't, I work it, but I didn't earn this. I almost think they feel like they say, that they understand that people are jealous, that they're saying, I'm not sure, that it almost takes something away from them or something. But I like to realize I'm lucky. I am so blessed that my great grandparents moved to Montana. They had no money, they had nothing, but they came out here because they wanted something new. They wanted freedom, and that is because of that I was born here in Montana. I didn't have to make the choice to go out there and rough it myself to get there. I was already here. So yeah, so somebody mentioned my wife. Yeah, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but I went my clothes shopping. I bought 2 shirts. That's my clothes shopping. I'm like, I don't even know. I don't like to stay in a store very long. So I got 2 shirts. And those shirts I just wore all the time. And the problem is that every time I would do a video, I'd be wearing the same shirt. And then my sister-in-law and my wife were like, you can't do that. So they went and to the store and bought me a whole bunch of new clothing. So that's what I'm wearing lately. I got some new vests. I got some new shirts. I'm happy, but especially because I didn't have to go to the store to buy them. So whoops, sorry, kicked the camera. Somebody asked me how I feel about the Chinese buying land in Montana. I do not feel, my personal opinion is I don't feel like any outside countries should be able to own property in the United States. That doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I don't know why you would have them own property, but that's just me. I think if you want to make something of yourself, then come over here and do it yourself, not your country. So anyway, I'm gonna go to some questions here if I can find where I was. Let me see if you guys have any more questions that I haven't answered. Yeah. So one thing, one thing about like the amount of work that a rancher has to do. If somebody wants to become a rancher, let's say you guys are saying, "Hey, I want to become a rancher. I want that lifestyle and everything." That's fine, but you have to realize that to do that, number one, you have to be a good businessman or woman because you're going to have to do things that these ranchers today who have inherited their ranch don't have to do. You know, they have their land already paid for. You would not. So you have to make money plus make payments on something. And that's going to be stressful and it's going to mean working all the time. And you can, I honestly believe you can do it. Maybe not in the most beautiful location in the world. I think you need to work your way up to the most beautiful location in the world. I think you have to start somewhere that has cheaper land and grows more grass and has less winter, honestly, to make a real good, you know, a go of ranching today. But also your expectations of what you can do have to drop. So I believe there's a huge problem in the United States with people wanting things, but they're not willing to do what it takes to get them. So to be a rancher means you don't have vacations. Your vacations are your ranch. I mean, unless you're established and you have enough money to hire people to do the work that you need done, you're not going to be able to take the vacations that you used to take. Um, Also, the kind of housing you're used to, the kind of food you're used to, you're just going to have to live a much lower income lifestyle. The only thing that ranchers really have that's higher income is they have like nice vehicles and things like that. And that's a lot of times because you need something reliable. You really have to have something reliable as far as vehicles and machinery. The older stuff sometimes costs you way more than than the new equipment because if you have older stuff that's breaking down all the time, it's not only the amount of money that you have to spend to fix it, right? Let's say your tractor breaks down. I dealt with this for years. So when my dad actually moved to the place he's on now, yeah, time is money exactly, and especially when you have a growing season that's that long. So your year is this long, your growing season is that long. If you screw something up and something breaks down for 2 weeks while your hay is on the ground, and you can't get it fixed for 6 days, it could get rained on, which drops the price and quality of your hay. Everything goes to pot and the stress goes way, way, way up. So if you see somebody with a big piece of new machinery, usually it's because they're willing to go to the bank and take a huge loan to get that machinery so they can get done the work that they need done right then. And I'm using that as farming, but it's the same thing with anything else. So, the thing is, whoop, went too far. Somebody was asking me about Brangus cattle. Brangus is Brahma mixed with Angus. It always depends on where you are. I just did a video on how to, how much land you would need to make money as a rancher, and I was using like eastern Montana as the example. So you got to have 20 to 25 acres per head to make for grazing. If you want to graze them all year round, that's a lot. There's a lot of places in the country like Florida and Alabama and places like that they don't really have winter to shut them down, and the grass grows all year round. So you have you only need I don't even know what it is because I don't live there, but I've been to Alabama a few times, and they just I mean they never feed any hay. Their cows are always grazing, so they have you don't need near as I think you can have like 2 cows to the acre, 4 cows to the acre, something like that, which makes your numbers completely different than the ones I gave you in that video. Now that I got off on my tangent, I forgot the question I was answering. Anyway, cattle breeds. So cattle breeds make a huge difference. It depends on, up here in the mountainous, rough country, Angus cattle do very, very well because they climb hills really well. And and it's not because you're pushing them. I mean, when you leave cows in a pasture, they to be able to utilize all the grass, they have to be hiking up the hill and then coming back down to water and then hiking back up the hill all the time. And if they're not willing to do that, if some breeds of cattle like to stay low, some don't handle the winters, some have too many diseases, some don't produce enough meat on their bones, that kind of thing. So Brangus don't do as you don't I don't see anybody raising Brangus here, and I'm not that familiar with them, but Brahma is a very desert cow, but they don't really, you're not really seeing much in where the winters are heavy. So I don't know if that's because they don't handle the winters very well or if they don't create the flesh like an Angus cow. Anyway, I'm just ranting. Sorry, I'm ranting here. Yeah, and little small towns, I hate I don't want to offend anybody, but a lot of people say, "Well, I'm from a small town," and in other parts of the country like California and Oregon, places where big cities have small towns, but the but the small town is like attached to the big city. It's just a little section that they sectioned out and call it a town. That's not the same thing as small town Montana. Small town Montana is like, um, like like 2,000 people or something, but we have to drive 60 miles for our groceries. I mean, we have a little grocery store, but it's not like we use it very much because they're pretty expensive. But when you get to real small town like Pony, yeah, somebody mentioned Pony, or Jordan or Circle, Montana, those places are out in the middle of nothing. I mean, you don't even have you have nothing. They probably have a bar there, and that's about it. And that is a different kind of living. Everybody knows what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how you're doing it. I remember as a teenager, I was plowing a field with a little old piece of junk tractor that we had, and I took a corner a little too wide and stuck the plow through the fence, but it was along the highway. And every person that went by, of course, saw me and knew who it was, and they were honking, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm gonna get made fun of for months about this." Hello to all the new people that are jumping on here now. I'm just answering a few questions about ranching cowboys in Montana. So if you have any, make sure you put them in the chat there. I appreciate you joining us. Is sheep farming doable in Montana? So there are a couple sheep farmers right around this area. So it's a very notorious thing. Sheep ranchers and cattle ranchers don't get along very well. Haven't from the time they started. So the a lot of the big feuds that happened in the West um, are between sheep ranchers and cattle ranchers. There's, in fact, my ancestor, the Whistler family, they started. I don't even know the names of the parents, but they actually were killed by cattle ranchers. They were poisoned by cattle ranchers, and they had, I think it was 12 kids or something, and they had to go off on their own. And each of the older ones took one of the younger ones to raise, and that's my great grandfather Ton. That's what they called him. He was a huge guy. He was like 6'5", and they that's how they started. So the sheep ranching and the cattle ranching don't get along very well. If you ever smelled sheep, they're very very strong smell. And for a long time, sheep weren't worth anything. Sheep prices have gone down, but in recent years, like during COVID and after COVID, they seem to be really climbing in prices. So one thing you have to understand: everything that happens out here, people say, "Well, you're cruel because you do this, or you should do that, or everything." It's not. It has to pay, or somebody won't do it. So I mean, if raising sheep pays, people will start to do it. If sheep doesn't pay, then they won't do it. So yeah, I mean it is it's completely different to be rural, and I'm glad that we have the country that we have, and the way it's set up, so we do have a voice, because otherwise we wouldn't. Okay, from Central Texas. Well, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you enjoy my channel. I try hard. I really do. So, do you have wolves or wild horses near you? So we have lots and lots of wolves all over Montana now. And um, wolves are a problem. Wolves are a problem, not only because of what they do with cattle, because they do end up killing quite a few cattle, but they just create all kinds of issues because they kill so much of our wildlife. They're a real big problem. A lot of people think ranchers don't want wildlife, and some ranchers don't because they eat the hay and they compete with the cattle. Look, there's bad people in every industry. I just want you to know that. They're not all ranchers are like the best people in the world. A lot of them are total jerks who think they should own the whole world and everybody should grovel to them because they own a ton of land. But a lot of them are good people too, and they want wildlife, and they want the wildlife to expand and flourish. And wolves are a detriment to that, because wolves really create a problem with they kill so many elk and deer, and they take down a lot of the babies. But they take down such a high percentage of the young in the spring, that then that's you don't see a number drop in your elk populations and for a few years once wolves get in there, because the older ones are still surviving, but the younger ones are all dying. And then all of a sudden, as the older ones start dying, all of a sudden you just have this huge drop in the amount of elk populations, especially, and mule deer. Mule deer are having a problem. Um, are wolves good for anything? I'm not sure about that. Here, one of the problems with the wolves that they introduced to Montana is they are not the wolves that we had here before. So everybody thinks, oh, we reintroduced the wolf, but we didn't. We introduced the Arctic wolf, which we never had here before. They had a prairie wolf, which is actually extinct now, which was about half the size of the wolves that we were introduced to Montana and Wyoming and Idaho area. So reintroducing wolves is kind of like, yes, we did, but we did not introduce the wolves that we had here before. These wolves are huge. These are 200-pound wolves. So I always think it's funny because I find out things when you travel. If you go to the East Coast, all of a sudden everybody's go, "Oh, aren't you happy because the wolf is there?" We're like, nobody in the West is like, "Woohoo! We need way more wolves." So this is as far as carrying a firearm. People ask me this all the time, like, do I carry a firearm when I'm riding? One thing we don't have right here, very many of anyway, is grizzly bears. Once we get grizzly bears right here in numbers, we have them, but they're not extraordinary numbers right now. So they're moving from both sides of the state to us, and now we're starting to get them. And we don't have armadillos, no armadillos. But once the grizzly bears get to this area and start really taking over, like they have in the north and the south of Montana, then we'll have to start riding with uh, a firearm at all times and pepper spray most likely. But usually, see, I'm on a horse all the time if I'm in the mountains. So when you're on a horse the whole time, you really don't have to worry much about like mountain lions or wolves, because you're usually with somebody else. You're when you're moving cows anyway. You're making noise. Everything knows you're around there. You're going, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, like this, cracking the whip. Everything is aware. And that's not when you have problems. When you really have problems is when you're hunting, because you're trying to be quiet. So when you're trying to be quiet and you're going through timber and you run into a grizzly bear, that's a bad situation. And actually, just last week or a week and a half ago, um, somebody had to shoot a grizzly bear because uh, they were bird hunting along hedgerows. I don't know if you guys. So Montana is so diverse as far as what they have. We have mountains and timber and everything, and then right outside the mountains, you get this big flatland prairies with canyons. They call them draws in there, and rivers and things like that. But it's a lot of prairie and farm ground. And in that farm ground, the grizzly bears are actually moving out into the farm ground. So they have these old hedgerows where years and years ago they used to plant these bushes for rows for miles, and that's where the pheasants hang out. So they hunt those with dogs, and the dogs go through the the little brush piles along the edge of these fields. They're out in the middle of nothing, and there's no. It's like a hedgerow and then nothing for a mile, right? And the bears have been coming out into those areas to eat grain and things, and then they bed down in those hedgerows. And if you're going along the edge of one of those hedgerows with a dog, the bear has nowhere to go. So if you run into one in the forest, they feel like they can sneak off. A lot of times they have cover, but in a hedgerow, if they were to take off, they'd be right out in the open, and they don't like to do that. So they're staying right there until the guy is right on them, and then at that point they oftentimes attack. And that was a huge bear. It was a 680-pound bear or something. Chewed on his leg a little bit. It's always funny to watch though, because when you start the season, you drive by these fields and there's people hunting them, and they're walking right next to these hedgerows, like 15, 20 feet from these hedgerows. And then something like this happens, which it's happened several times now, where where a bear attacks somebody. And then you drive by those same fields, and the people hunting the fields are like 300 yards away from the hedgerow. I don't blame them. I'm not sure I would blame them, but they definitely aren't as close to the hedgerow. So we don't have any wild hogs yet. People say we won't ever get wild hogs because well, it's too wintry here, but I don't know that can be true, because there's wild boars in Russia way up north. So I don't know that the cold is a deterrent. The food source may be a problem. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things they live on down south that we don't really have here. So I'm not sure about that, but we don't have any at the moment. Yes, exactly. The first aid, carrying first aid with you is probably a good idea. But like I was saying, I'm just going to go back to what I was saying. Usually when we're moving cows is not the time that we have to worry about it too much. We're making too much noise. Even though we're going through thick brush, you're on a horse, they're going to be scared of you. It's not that, like when I did the video, it's gathering cattle at 8,000 feet. If you guys haven't seen that one, you can go back and see it. And we're riding through some really, really thick timber. While we're riding through that thick timber, a friend of mine had a game camera which takes pictures of whatever passes. And right before us, there was a mountain lion and like 3 bears went through that area right before us. But we're making so much noise. We're moving cattle through the brush. Anything's kind of moving out of the area. Rattlesnakes, oh man, we have a lot of rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes all the time. In fact, if you've watched my videos, you've seen, one was right beside my hot tub. I have a hot tub on my front porch for the wintertime. I don't really care for it, but my wife loves to get in the hot tub. And there was a rattlesnake right there. There was a rattlesnake right in front of my front door. Lots of rattlesnakes. Yes, and you have rattlesnakes in Florida. I think they're a different kind of rattlesnake. I think those are, because I don't think we have diamondbacks. We have just prairie rattlers, what they call them, prairie rattlers, I believe. There's a ton of them, though. There is a ton of them. So I'm going to go going to just go to a couple of comments here in YouTube. I find this kind of funny. So I'm sorry if you guys are all. I don't know. I assume most of you are not vegans, right? I mean, you're watching me, so you're most likely not vegans. But a couple of people are, and I'm not trying to be mean to those people. What I want people to understand from watching my videos is the connection between food from here and where it ends up on your plate. Because a lot of people, they they have they don't associate, the fact that they're eating McDonald's hamburger, but that, that is where that came from, where that meat came from. It had to come from a cow that was harvested. And when we say harvested, that means killed and cut up and made into burger. And so I'm trying to make that connection, because I think if we have that disconnect, we have a lot of people who eat meat and then call us cruel for raising meat at the same time, and they want to shut that down, but they still want to eat their meat. They don't even have any association between the two, and that can be difficult. So I'm really trying to portray and show what the connection is. How do you connect these two things? If you eat meat, that's where it comes from. You have to understand that. Then you can choose not to eat meat. That really, is irrelevant to me. If you don't want to eat meat, good for you. So keto, I I hope this is okay that I just talk about whatever the heck I want to talk about. And you guys bring up questions, I just throw it out there. Hopefully it's interesting to you. Keto. Me personally, I am doing keto right now, and I have for about 8 months. And I have actually lost quite a bit of weight doing it. I feel a lot better. But one of the reasons I feel better is because I had COVID really badly. Really, I had it for about 40 days. And then I could not get rid of the symptoms for a year and a half. And I couldn't, I felt like I had a fever all the time. My head was always hot. I was very, very under energy. And I tried keto for just like a couple of weeks, and immediately all that stuff went away. So apparently what COVID did to me was make it so that any sugar or carbs make me have inflammation, which causes my whole system to just go wacky and not feel good at all. So keto is a choice for me, but it's made very easy, because it still, like like 2 weekends ago, I had pizza. Pizza is my downfall. I have a problem with pizza. Sorry, I'm Trinity, and I have a problem with pizza, and that has a lot of carbs in it, and I probably has some sugar in the sauce or something like that. And I ate a whole bunch of pizza that night, and I ate a little bit the next day. Felt terrible. I mean, terrible again. And I just started feeling better. I went to a meeting, and this lady had brought these like um, little like banana bread muffins with chocolate chips in them. Oh my word. They were just like calling to me. So I had two of them. 30 minutes later, felt absolutely miserable. So it's not something I can really do. I mean, I can. I just gonna feel terrible about it. So I have to. So I pretty much I stay on keto just because I feel 90% better on keto, and it also it just, and I lost weight on it. It feels great. I mean, I feel really good. So. Amen. Yes, I am. Okay, so let's go back to, yeah. So blood sugars and everything. I don't know why we're on a health thing right at the moment, but we're talking about whatever. It's yeah, keto is really, I mean, it's really helped me. And one of my friends is kind of like a low carb person. He's insane. He runs 60 miles through the mountains in a day. I don't know how you actually do that. I couldn't do 60 miles through the mountains on a horse, much less maybe I could, but I don't know. Well, maybe I could. I've done 30 miles on a horse in 5 hours twice. And you have to go fairly quickly. And that was both in the wintertime though, so it was with thick clothing on and stuff like that. Yeah, pizza's a tough one to give up. So what I found for keto is they have these crusts that they sell at Costco. And does everybody have Costco in their area? So I buy these cauliflower pizza crusts. They're definitely, excuse me, they're definitely not cheap. But and then I make my own pizzas at home with those crusts. I can put some non-sugar sauce on there and throw some pepperoni and stuff, and that really helps. Horses sweat a lot. I didn't know. Oh yes, they. And while you're working them hard, when you're going up, you're riding up a mountain, you're pushing them hard, and usually they're not in shape right away, and especially in the spring. So, but even when they are in shape, when you're working them hard, they sweat a lot. In fact, they sweat so much they get salt deposits, so they start turning white foam and stuff on their sides and stuff, just like we would when we're working out. You know. No. So here's an interesting thing. Okay, somebody asked. I'm curious. I saw your older videos, and it seemed like you're pro development for agricultural lands. This is a tough subject, and that's one of the things that really intrigued me about Yellowstone. I own a construction company, not because I want to own a construction, not because I want to cover anything in houses, nothing. This is Montana. I live here. I've lived here all my life. I was born and raised here. Love it. Absolutely love Montana the way it is. A lot of the areas that I used to drive through and there was no houses anywhere are covered with houses. That to me is sad. It's very sad. But when you can either try to ignore or stop something that's happening to you in your lifestyle or your community or something and watch it happen anyway, or you can make money from it. Some people are subdividing properties, and there's nothing you're going to do about that. You can't stop them from subdividing property. You can't stop people from wanting to move to Montana. I would want to move to Montana. So I am for freedom, but I see the problem. And one of the reasons that people are subdividing their land, I believe, is because ranching, the agriculture on it, makes so little money and is such a hard lifestyle that these people that are inheriting these ranches are going, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work that hard to make that much money to barely live when I could make $1 million subdividing this thing, right? So what they do is they subdivide it and and it's gone forever. That land is gone forever from agriculture. It doesn't come back. So because of that, I don't begrudge the people that want to live here. Like I said, I would love to see it stay the same, but I also understand that you can't. So the best thing you can do is come up with ways to enable agriculture to make enough money on the land to where they don't sell it for development. I think that's the best way. You're not going to get a government program. Everything can't be it can't be public land. You can't have everything be public land because public land is not the answer. The government can't hardly run the public land that they have right now. They don't have any money. So so what you do is you have to find a way to make more money per cow or more money per acre on your land so that people don't have to sell that land in the way that they're doing right now. And step one of that, for me, is trying to educate people on what ranching really is like, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I don't carry a tool. Somebody asked me if I carry a tool. I used to carry a Gerber all the time, but honestly, I don't like something sticking off my side. I don't like a wallet in my back pocket because it's always either working its way out it's it's makes your back go out or something like that. So I think I showed you guys this yesterday, but this is my wallet right here. It's I think it actually I think it's actually made to go on the side of a purse. You like drop it in a purse and go like this. But what I do is I shove it in my front pocket and then it just goes over my front pocket like that. And that is perfect because there's nothing behind me. And then I don't have a tool on me. I just carry a Spyderco knife that clips on my pocket. And I just like Spydercos. I know it's dirty, but I can open it with one hand because usually you have something in the other hand. So then it ends up being pretty clean like this. So you have, so it's pretty clean like that. See, there's nothing behind. There's nothing to hook my rope on right here. And that's really the issue. It's one of the reasons I don't carry a sidearm, with me at all times. I should talk about that a little bit because if I am riding in the country or in the mountains, not moving cows, by myself, I'm almost always either carrying a firearm, usually a firearm and pepper spray, because there's situations for both. The wind is blowing 25 miles an hour in my face. Pepper spray is not really going to be the answer. Yeah, I don't even know. You know what? What I just showed you, I don't even know where you can get those. That little wallet thing, my wife buys them for me, so I don't even know where they actually come from. But you know, this is what I carry sometimes in the mountains. That's very heavy. So, I carry it in a cross draw, so it's on this side. But it's pretty heavy. It's a good, I don't know, 4 or 5 pounds. It's a big old weapon, so you don't want to bounce that around on you too much if you have to run or something. So the thing is lots of people have commented on my saddle. I had a saddle made by a guy named from Slick Fork Saddle Shop here in Townsend years ago, and that's the same one I ride today, and it looks actually pretty new. And that's because I don't use Neat's photo oil on it. Most people when they're trying to condition their saddles, because when your saddle gets wet, the leather gets it starts to degrade. So you got to put something on it like oil. But I don't actually use that. I use Obernoff's. It's like a beeswax with oil in it. It's really fantastic stuff, and it doesn't discolor your leather because I never wanted to look old. I wanted to look like it's supposed to like it looked when I got it. So that's what I do. Any other questions? I don't. So the reason I brought up the vegan thing, there was somebody who do I know Buck Brannaman? No, I have actually never met Buck Brannaman. The guy that worked with him is I did know him. My dad rode with him. Of course, I can't think of his name right now. And they both worked on the movie The Horse Whisperer. Yeah. Sorry, I'm totally jumping around here because I see some certain questions. Okay. Do I see a future in ranching? Yes, absolutely. So, but not the way it's going right now. I don't see it going the same way. Some people think so. Right now, what people do is they raise cattle. Okay, they raise them for about 6 to 8 months and then they sell them, and they don't hardly make anything from them. what happens is the packers, the packing plants, the people who actually butcher the cattle and sell them on the shelf. Okay, they kind of set the price on both ends. They tell you what they're going to pay for the cattle from the rancher, and they tell you what price they're going to put in the store. So if you sell your calves at 6 to 8 months, that's what you're gonna get whatever they pay you, and that's it. And they can set the price wherever they want it. So I see the future as a lot of ranchers are going to have to learn how to be businessmen instead of just ranchers. They're going to have to butcher their own cattle. They're going to have to raise them longer, butcher their own cattle, and sell them directly to the customers so that they're cutting out the middleman and making that's not easy because you have to have them butchered in an FDA approved site. It's a lot of efforts, a lot of setup. It takes longer to raise them, costs more money to raise them till they're a year. But I see that's one of the things. And then specialty breeds of cattle. I'm going to actually do a video on that on specialty breeds of cattle this week. Hopefully, I'm hoping tomorrow. So I we'll see. I'm supposed to go over and talk to somebody about that a little bit. Kurt Pate is the guy that worked with Buck Brannaman, and Kurt's a really nice guy. I rode with him a few times. He's now ranching over in South Dakota. So I'm assuming he went over there because of the same thing that we're talking about right now. You can afford land in South Dakota, maybe, where you can't really hear. People want to go to Montana. I mean, that's the place to go right now, especially because of shows like Yellowstone and 1883 and everything like that. It's I'm reading. Okay, so where do you keep the cattle in the wintertime? So the winter, uh, so in the summertime, we move the cows up into the mountains and they graze the high mountain grasses. And then we bring them back down, take the calves off, and then we actually move the cows back up into the mountains. Not quite as high, but lower. We try to save the lower pastures and move the cows back up there, and they stay there until we get snowed out. And as soon as the snow gets deep enough that we have to start feeding cattle, then they'll come back to the low. Most of the ranch houses or ranch locations are in the lower areas, and then you just have to feed hay. But they're always in an open pasture. There's no. The only time they're in a barn is if they're having trouble with having a baby. If they're having trouble calving, then you have to take them in the barn, keep them warm, that kind of thing. Pull the calf, but typically they're always in a pasture somewhere. Or just whether you have to feed them hay. They grow so much hair. I mean, in the wintertime, you guys should see Calabar right now. He just looks like a puffball because he's grown a bunch like beaver fur. He's growing his winter hair out really nicely. He's puffy. So they get plenty of winter hair. They're better insulation than we have, that's for sure. And actually, the longer you stay outside, the better you are. If you were to stay outside the whole time with the right clothing and gear, you would get less cold than if you came in and get nice and warmed up, and then you go back outside, and then you go back in and get all warmed up again, and then go back outside, like we do as humans. Yeah, Peter Sentinello. I don't know how many of you guys know him, but he's a fantastic guy. He came up here and did a video with me, and um, he stopped by the other day. The other day being, probably 2 or 3 weeks ago now. But he's a fantastic dude. I talk to him still and gives me advice. All right, guys. Well, I might hop off here unless you guys have any last minute questions. I actually have to edit a video today, so I'm going to go eat a little lunch, and then I better edit a video. I probably need to go ride that horse just to keep him going. He was kind of an idiot yesterday. Yes, Peter did several videos on Alaska, so that's when he was doing those, he came by here. cold weather cattle. Which ones are so back in the old days, meaning 1860s to 1880s when they all most of them died. They had Texas Longhorns is what they drove up here, and they just let them run in the wintertime, and it didn't feed them anything until the winter of 1886 when 50% of them died because they had such a horrible winter. And then they started doing they started raising hay. So cold climate cattle are there's certain cattle breeds that do much better in the cold. Weight on, and they can hold heat better. One of those is Angus, Black Angus and Red Angus. They're fantastic. Limousine does well, even though supposedly they're not very good to eat. Um, and the other one is Herefords. Herefords do really well. And of course, like you got the Highlander cattle, the big, shaggy, sharp horned little things. Some people raise those, but very, very few for beef because we don't have a market for them. It's really hard to sell Highlander cattle, and they're really small. But all right, so first generation rancher. That means you've already started ranching, or you're going to start ranching in Florida. Well, so how much of the hay that do we produce ourselves? As much as you can, because here's the thing: is right now hay prices in Montana are about $250 a ton. So feeding cattle is if you have to feed them for uh, you know 3 or 4 months, you kiss your profit goodbye. I mean, seriously, it's going to kill you. So if you raise the hay, it costs you about $40 to $50 a ton just to put it up. That's your fuel cost, your tractor payments, your labor costs, all that kind of stuff. So if you can raise it, and you have $40 to $50 a ton hay, you can feed that way easier than you can feed $250 a ton, because a cow will eat 25-30 pounds a day. So if you're feeding them 25, or let's say 30 pounds a day, I mean that's like a half a ton a month, isn't it? Yeah, so that's a half a ton a month. So I mean, you got $150 or $125 into each cow per month. That gets expensive fast. So that's why it is so much better if you're going to start raising cattle to raise them in the south, or so like Florida, um, some places in Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, places like that. Because if you can graze cattle all year, you don't have to you have to put so much less money in them. So the less money you have to put in them, the more you make. Lots of people feed round bales, big squares, lots less little squares. When I was a teenager, that's all we put up is little square bales. And so little square bales are about 80 pounds a piece, and you have to move them like 900 times. You get in shape doing that, but it is not fun. So anymore, people use the big squares, which are like 1,500 pounds, 2,000 pound bales at a time. They either feed those. If you're selling a lot of your hay, a lot of people will put up big squares because they stack better on a semi. The round bales are arguably easier to feed because they have feeders for them. You just roll them out, or you can chop them up in a chopper that spins them like this, things like that. Um, but they're very difficult to haul in a semi because they don't stack well. You can't really stack them up in a straight line and everything. So, or a nice tight package. All right, guys. Well, I am going to um, jump off and go get some lunch. I apologize for not posting that I'm going to do a live stream. I really need to do that. I need to kind of figure out a time I can do a live stream. I should be able to do that this winter. Winter, the cattle are a lot closer to home and you don't have to move them as often, so there's a lot less to do. From the only time ranchers really have a lot of or some extra time is from about December to well, it depends on when you start calving, but if you start calving in February, late February, somewhere in there, that's when you have time to do extra things. But between those two times is your best times, and it's actually more like December to January, because in January almost always you got to start feeding hay. So as soon as you have to start feeding hay, you got to, it takes you 2 or 3 hours every single day to feed hay. You can't just leave, go on vacation or something, because it's hard to find somebody to go feed your cattle for 3 hours every day unless you have a hired hand. So anyway, it was really good talking to you guys. I appreciate all of you, and feel free, um, go. Let's see. So I'm not sure how it's working exactly, but if you go to my profile, you can look in the profile. You'll see a link to the Telegram channel, and try that. If not, I'm gonna actually set up uh, a text group so that you guys can have a little better, ask questions and stuff a little better. Because sometimes in the comments, I just get overwhelmed by how many comments there is anymore, and I can't quite keep up with it. But I'll start a text group, and I'll put that in my description on my YouTube channel. So make sure that you kind of check back, or you can join my Telegram group and ask me questions in there. You may have to go on to an actual post to message me. I'm not sure. That's what I can't figure quite out in there, how to get that set so you can do whatever. But anyway, check those out. I will talk to you later. Hope I can help out whenever you guys have questions. And have a great day. Bye bye. Hmm. I'm actually trying to figure out if there's a way to put in my Telegram group, like let anybody just chat, but I don't see it. So. Hey, well, thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate that. Yeah. Yep, that's what I'm doing. Guess you guys can see how much coffee I drink. Actually, I've had this hat for about, oh, it's quite a while. I've had this hat for several years. This one's held up pretty good, but I'm not young anymore, so I don't wear it in all the crappy weather. If it's really crappy weather like rain all the time, I try not to wear it because that'll ruin a hat really fast. I'm due for a new one because this isn't the kind of hat you want to wear when you go to town. You need one. You need a good one for town, and then this one for like when you're working. So usually, what I do is I wait for them to get about this looking like this, and I buy a new one, and then once that one gets all trashed, then I switch it up again. Well, I'm gonna try a texting group. So let me, if you guys want to, you can test this for me and see if it actually works. It's not working, just so you know. I've heard of that, like where cows and horses kind of develop a friendship. Usually only when it's just, the two of them or very few of them. Not very often. I don't. A lot of times horses like they enjoy chasing around the cattle in the pasture. Um, well, so in Telegram, it's just Trinity Vandenaker. That's what I'm under. So. Oh, I see. It's private. Yes, it's private because I have the link. So if you go to my YouTube channel description, there's a link in there that that automatically joins that group. So if you go to the, I can't remember if it's called the description, whatever it is on my bio or whatever on my YouTube, there's a link there. I'm not really. Let me see what. Yeah, so Julia, I'm trying to figure out how to not have to use Telegram. I think it's really good for creating community, you know, because you can chat, but you do have to have the Telegram app. So if there was a way I could do, I'm looking into like how to do a text group, not just a group, but a texting community, so that you know, I can send you a text instead, and then you know, haven't figured exactly how to do that, but I want to create a community that's a little bit more. It's easier for you guys to be involved. Let's say that. You sent a request. Okay, let me look. I have that right here. Where would that be? Oh, there we go. 2 join requests. Add to channel, add to channel. There you go. That should have done it. So create a group instead of the channel. Okay, well, if you, I have a group too. It's called Trinity's Group. So if you want to join that as well, then, so you think that would be better as far as the chatting goes? Is that what you're thinking? Yeah, Trinity's Group. I have that. That's where my, let me see if I can, let's just see if I can get people to, I'm sorry. Sometimes I just talk like halfway and don't actually finish my sentences. I apologize for that. I'm not really sure how to, add people to this group, but I'm looking. This group is private too. Okay, I'm getting there. Let's see. this one you don't. I'm going to create a link, post it in there. See, oh, I mean, might as well try it out, right? So what I'm doing is I'm creating a, you probably can't see that, but I'm trying to create a community where people can actually, you know, chat amongst themselves and things like that. I'm going to actually share a link to the Trinity's group in Trinity Vandenaker in my channel on Telegram. That doesn't sound confusing. Yes, Telegram, the messaging app. That's what it is. So. All right, so no idea if this is gonna work, but what I did is put a link in my Trinity Vandenaker in the Telegram group Trinity Vandenaker, or sorry, confusing you already. The Telegram channel Trinity Vandenaker to Trinity's group. So if you click on that, you should be able to just go right in the group. And I think in the group you can actually talk to everybody and not just comment on my stuff, which is dangerous. Could be dangerous because that means that, you know, somebody might be able to, I might need to, you know, police it or something a little bit. People don't get crazy and get kicked off of there. I mean, not that you'll get kicked off. I may have to kick somebody off there. The only thing you have to watch out for on Telegram is the Telegram app is that if somebody actually puts you on, where's the link? So if somebody puts you in a group, so because on Telegram somebody can actually just all of a sudden you'll find yourself in a group. You just go to the top and just click the one button that says report spam and leave, and it just takes you back out. So I do like that. Yes, I am shirking my barn duty today. My dad is out there actually feeding hay, and you know, the old man, he needs something to do too. So actually, what I really need to do is go ride that horse again. Those two horses, because I'm going to take my son up in the mountains a couple times here this fall, and they are not ready to go for that. I want to get him bucked off. Okay, that worked. I mean, Popeye's in there, so, and he was able to actually say something. Oh, man. Typing in the wrong place. Okay. All right, guys. I don't know. I'm just doing this. Well, see, okay, I don't make my money from ranching. That's why I'm able to do this. Okay. I help ranchers out. My dad owns a horse leasing company. Um, I'm an entrepreneur. I did the ranching thing and the horses thing and had to live on that for a long time. And it was so stressful and had to work so long. I thought there's no way I can do this. So I had to actually get out, make money, and now get back in. So now I'm back into the ranching world. You can't really ever get out of it totally, but you don't want to. And one of the things that people that ranchers really don't understand a lot of times is when they're in ranching all their lives, they take it for granted, meaning they're they don't really realize what they have. They see the hard work, they see all the hard stuff that they have to do, but they're never really aware that other people want to really do this. So sometimes, like the one family in Texas, they make all of their kids go to college, not necessarily to learn something, but so they can get away from the ranch. They can see what other people experience, and then a lot of times they'll come back, but then they appreciate it more. If you stay there all your life and you only see the hard work, how much hard work you have to put in it, and all that stuff, then you end up not being able to appreciate what you have. Let's say that. Well, because it's private, you have to have the actual link to the group. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe I should just make it public, the group public. I'm gonna make the group public. See what that. Then you can just. Oh, I see. Approved. Okay. Well, that I didn't. All right. Let me try this again. So I'm gonna make this the group public. And I'm probably gonna have to make some rules in here, in this chat thing, because I can't have just everything being posted. But, you know, ask any questions that you know, if you want help from somebody in there, if you have questions about Montana or something, let's see how this works in here. Okay? We'll just give it a shot, see how it works. If it doesn't work and it's going all haywire, then we'll have to change it. But I'm going to that's not how you do it. What do you do? Okay, just make it public. There. Sure. You will be able to copy, save, and forward content from this group. It's an experience. It's an experiment, right? I mean, we're trying something new on Telegram here. We'll see what happens. Okay, so that doesn't work. I'm not an expert at Telegram here, but we'll try that. Okay. We're the shot, right? All right. I'm going to go eat some lunch, guys. I'm going to go eat some hamburger steak is what I'm going to eat. Because I have to edit my next video. You guys want to see what that I haven't decided yet exactly which one I'm going to edit, but I have two of them. Let me see if I got something here. I can show you guys, okay? Just, hey, if you held on till this point, you might be able to see just a little piece of a video that is pretty much a wreck. Where is it? No, I don't want to open 40 items. Okay, so one before this. So nope, it's the one right after this. I'm sorry, I'll get there. I'll get there at some point. Okay, right here, guys, this is something nobody's seen yet. So this is just part of my next video, maybe. This was almost a wreck here. Well, it probably should have been a wreck. So there's the calf, okay? There's the calf. I'm trying to catch this calf. Because he needs an ear tag. So I missed him, caught the foot. The rope wrapped around my arm, and my horse took off because the wind was blowing. The horse was trying to drag me and the calf, and luckily, my arm, I've got a bruise all the way up my arm because The calf wasn't big enough to drag me off the horse. If that would have been a bigger calf, that would have dragged me right off the horse. I guess you can't see the. I thought you could see the thing going around my arm, but you can't. So anyway, if you want to see the rest of like how I actually caught that calf, you'll have to see, because as soon as I did catch the calf, her mother tried to kill me. She is a nasty cow and needs to be sold. Lots of wind noise in that. I apologize. All right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to eat some lunch. We'll see you next time.